What's up, guys? It's Daniel Gurfinkel here with Ryan Chen, and we are hosting the It's What You Know, but It's More About Who You Know podcast. Super exciting. We're going to be talking about a couple pretty interesting topics. Ryan and I both own financial services companies, and we cover a pretty wide scope of topics. So if you're interested in peeking behind the curtain of this pretty crazy financial world that you see a lot more of now on social media, you're definitely going to want to listen up because we're going to be dropping some secrets that you don't want to miss. Ryan, introduce yourself, tell the people a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Ryan Chen. I own two operating companies currently, Loancater and Capital Growth Partners. Loancater was a debt brokerage. It is a debt brokerage that I started shortly after high school. And Capital Growth Partners is a boutique capital advisory business where we raise capital for various industries alike.
Oh man, what made you want to, right after high school, be like, I ain't doing, all this BS. I'm going straight into the financial world. What really inspired you and, made you do that? Because it's not a path that, is offered to people, let's say. You have to really find it.
Well, I was lucky and at the same time I was a bit arrogant. If you look at the teachers, they don't make much money. If I was looking at my professors and I attended the orientation for Baruch, I looked around me and I saw that the professors they don't make any money. So there's no way that I'm going to listen to somebody who makes less than six figures, who is barely scraping by, right? And I know that sounds a little bit, it sounds a little arrogant, and that's not my intention. But really, I looked at a map and I saw the professors make no money. And at that time, I already had a job at Premium Merchant Funding, and my mentor there was cashing out one of my professors. So I just looked at the two apples and I compared the apple to apple and I realized that if I just walk down the career path more directly from someone who's already making money, I will make money faster. It's that simple for me.
Gotcha. Tell me more about your mentor, that you started working with. Like why, it's pretty rare that in, school you come across people or, even in work when you're that young, someone that's making a ton of money and they'll take you under their wing. Like, we talk about, it's about what you know. That's pretty important, but it's more about who you know. Like that's why we're both in this business. What what kind of caught your eye? Like, how did you get that job first? And what made you kind of go all in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say mentor, but really he was just my boss. And throughout my career, I always had people who are well above me, who have accomplished way more than myself in my life, just so I can shortcut my learning curve. With my previous boss at Premium Merchant Funding, with my boss at Premium Merchant Funding, I I just went in and they basically rearranged me to his team. I was working with Jonathan Baker, and he works at Premium Merchant Funding. He essentially bought the doors. He opened the door to the cashier man to work for me, and over there, I was watching him. I think take home like $40,000 a month, and to me, right, that was a lot of money at the time because just came out of high school, was poor as fuck, and during my junior year, we had issues making rent, and I was living in a garage, like a storeway for a restaurant where they hold all their food. And I was living there, and I saw Jonathan making 40K a month, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of fucking money. And I had two paths: stay with Baruch or work next to JB every single day, right? This guy who was making a substantial amount of money. Now, as I'm exposed to more capital, that doesn't seem like a lot. But at that time, it was a lot of fucking money to me.
Yeah, man. Like when you're young, like and you see someone like even make 10,000 a month and you're broke, it's like teach me your magic, like, teach me your
Yeah,
secret. But the further you move in the capital world, like even six figures ain't much, right? Like
yeah,
like the goal is way higher. And that's kind of the thing about money, capital, is you can always have more. You can always add another comma. You can always add another zero. When will you be satisfied? Like what's the number? Like where will you finally be able to be like, all right, I'm good now. Like, is that exist? Or are you just gonna play the game forever?
I don't think there's a number for that. And I think that the more you make, the easier it becomes to make more money. It compounds. And also, I don't think anyone will, if you're chasing the money goal, it's like a black hole. It's never going to be enough, anyways. Um, that's what I
What's
heard
your goal?
from
What's your goal then? Where what do
my
you want to do? Like where
well,
what
my
do you want to do?
my goal is always changing. Right? At the beginning, I just want to make $10,000 a month. When I left my old firm, I just want to make 10,000. I just want to have enough money to scrape by and do whatever I want. Because 10,000, right? You can basically fly wherever you want in the world. You can go to Dubai, you can go to Singapore, and you can essentially live pretty comfortably. But I'm now beyond that point, well beyond that point, but still not enough. And I think that right now my goal is to have 1 billion in net worth. But I'm certain that once I hit that, when I hit that, I'm gonna want more. So I don't think the goal really has a final post that you're gonna be satisfied with.
1 billion net worth. I mean, that's the goal. Everyone wants to be. When you get there, you're probably gonna want a trillion. But that's how the game works. What's your favorite part of, being in this world? Like, what do you like to do the most? Like, is it negotiating deals? Is it, wining and dining clients? Like, what what's your favorite part?
I think that my favorite part is the it's probably just meeting the level of intelligence you get to meet in this game, right? When you're talking to fund managers, when you're talking to very successful entrepreneurs who exit multiple different companies, and when you get to be around them, the idea, the different type of possibilities of the world just opens up for you. And that's what I like. I like to engage with these entrepreneurs, these fund managers, and I get to learn from them. And that to me is always novel. And I really much like that. When I first left, during graduation, so this I got the job at PMF when everyone else was at graduation, right? They told me to come in for an interview. I went in, and when I first went in, there was so much, right? It's a completely new world because you go from high school, you're just sitting on a desk and you're taking notes and shit, and then taking tests, but none of that really applies once you go into the real world. And then you go to a cold call center, which is what PMF really was for me. And we had 1,000 people, and you're just dialing next to
A
tens
thousand
of
people in
people,
your office.
not in just one office. We had the PMF is multiple offices,
That's a
but I
big,
was in,
that's a
yeah,
massive sales floor.
yeah,
Like a lot of people don't understand how big of a sales force 1,000 people is. Even
yeah.
100 people in an office, right? Like and now that we have our own sales teams, like, you know, it's crazy once you get to that level, right? Like you have to do something right. So how was that experience being on the floor, being in the pen
Being in the bullpen, yeah. I think the quota at that point was 500 calls per person. I highly doubt that most
a
people hit
day?
that a day. I highly doubt that most people hit that. I was averaging around 300, 400 calls, and your lips are just fucking dry as shit
That's
at,
the limit.
at, at that
That's
point.
the limit. Like cold calling, like you could anyone that says they're doing $500 a day, like they're calling just shitty lists, right? Like if you're
Mhm.
getting $500 a day in, that's not a good list,
Yeah, exactly. I would totally agree. I'd much rather have 10 quality clients on the phone than talk to 50 random people.
right? Quality over quantity, man.
Yeah.
Like in our business, like I think both of us, we're kind of moving towards quality clients rather than working with quantity. Like we've been having some conversations about, just growing pains in the business. When you're trying to deal with a ton of quantity, you're not filtering as much for quality. Some of your systems may break, right? What was the experience when you were working there that made you realize like, okay, I can just do this myself, right? Like I don't need a be on a sales floor with 100 guys doing $500 a day. Like, what was a moment you probably looked at some guy in the office in a higher position that, I looked at someone in this business and I was like, this idiot's making what? Doing this? Like, I could do this right now. I'm sure you've probably seen that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think that at a certain point, I realized, and this is why I think of finance in general. I think there's no moat. Anybody can essentially enter. Like Steven Schwarzman always says, if anyone reads his book, you'll see that through his book, he says that in the game of finance, there's really no moat. Anybody can do it. And I agree. When I was working at PMF, I just saw two things. You have lenders you work with, you have clients. You match those two things together, and that's it. And then you get an offer and transactions closed and you get paid a commission. And over time, if you build up your capital base, this is what I mean when I say that it gets easier. You start putting your money into deals. And now you're making the returns that the lenders are making. And it only becomes easier. So I saw that process. You get the cash advance lenders, you get the client do a cold call. And this is what PMF did so well. They were so focused on cold calling. And don't get me wrong, there was a bunch of guys doing tech, email, text blasting, and a bunch of other shit. But you have such a focused group of salespeople making a shitload of calls every single day to a very small, I say small because the industry is pretty small. There's only a certain amount of business owners in the world. They're the same business owners, and they just keep constantly hearing calls from PMF. And I think that's what it is so well. But it was just calling clients, matching them with lenders, and then closing a deal and getting paid a piece of that. And it was that simple. And I believe that when I left, they were doing around 60 million funding a month, and the average deal paid around 10% of commission. So 60 million is like 6 million.
To the sales
So
team, that ain't bad at all.
yeah.
Not bad at all. What was your best like month working there? Like what was that? What was that? What was the biggest paycheck? And how did you feel when you like got that first paycheck? Like I know
Mhm.
your first job in sales, when you get that, when you finally get a taste of real money. For me, it was real estate.
Mhm.
I went to real estate in college, and back, 10 years ago, not 10,
Mhm.
but like 8, whatever. I don't even remember. I got my first check for $7,000 in my first month in real estate, and I was like,
Uh,
"Holy shit!" Back then, 7,000 was real money. Like
yeah.
that was good, man.
Uh,
And I was like, I felt like Warren Buffett. Like I felt like a billionaire. I got that check. I was like, I don't need to go back to college. I don't need to do anything. I still went back, of course, but how did that change your perspective? And what was that first check? Like, what was the first most memorable check that you got for what?
okay. So I can't name the transactions because of my NDA,
Mm,
but I can go over high level.
yeah,
And and at that point, the first deal I closed with them was 30,000. We made 3,600 on the commission plus an extra 10% on the fees. So we made 26% on 30,000.
shit, that
And
ain't bad.
it was a short-term loan to a doctor. And after that, the biggest month I had was $500,000, and we made 4% on that. And then a $247,000 cash advance consolidation, paying 12 points. Yeah, but that. Of course, they had
Right after
certain
high school.
splits right after high school. This is like 6 months in. There was a major split. Of course, the firm kept most of it. I can't name the split because I'm pretty sure they'll come after me. But it was good money. I wasn't receiving most of it, so I was like, "What the fuck?" I had to leave, and I saw that there was room for automations. PMF is great. They have a great sales team. It's true. Their sales team is massive and it's constant and it's stable and it's super effective. But when I left, I geared a lot toward marketing and bringing in quality leads, like you said before. And I focus on serving those quality clients instead of ramping up the calls and building a massive sales team.
Yeah. What do you think is like the major difference between you and everyone else in the market? Like, what would you what would you say is like why would people work with you versus anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's because we don't shy away from complexity. With my old firm, the majority of the firm was focused on cash advance. We have a well-versed of a well-versed suite of options at Loancater. We have a broad base of products that we're actually very deeply ingrained with. So it's not just like we're throwing things on a platter for the sake of doing it. We're deep experts in every single one of these products. And I think that's the biggest thing. Instead of shying away from complexity and sticking with one product, lean into it and then solve bigger problems for your clients with these different products.
Yeah. A lot of financial companies, they look for the low-hanging fruit, right? Like they got these lazy sales guys. They're waiting for the perfect lead to call in. And I see that's why a lot of people fail, right? Especially in our industry, like especially in mine with 0% business credit cards. I'm sure you've seen it. Like a lot of people, they just, it was cool. The money was easy a couple years ago. Not so much anymore, right? Like the market's gotten more complex. It's become more educated. People are looking for someone who can handle something complex, right? And the days of, hey, we'll go do a chase application on your behalf, those are gone, right? Like, people want a lot more service. That's kind of, that's what I see. But how do you see that in your world? Like, how do you see the market getting more sophisticated?
Yeah, good question. If you look at the 0% credit card, that phenomenon you're talking about is absolutely true. There's a bunch of people popping up and doing it. So that's saturating the market. And then I think that's with anything, right? With cash advance, we have a bunch of lawsuits. There's a massive lawsuit against Yellowstone Capital in New York, and the Attorney General basically shut them down for good.
Really?
And yeah, and
How
and, and
come?
because these guys are charging like 50% over 3 months, and I've done some of those deals myself. So I'm not saying that it's a bad
Good
thing.
commission.
I
Good commission on
good
that.
commission,
Man.
and if the
They're
deal makes
fun.
sense, it makes sense. All
Right.
right. I would say that most clients should not be taking that money, but it was good commission, and a lot of people are just coming in that space and really just filling it up. Because again, there is no moat. Anybody can come into finance and structure a broker deal. That's why I'm in the process of getting FINRA license myself. I'm getting the SIE, getting the series. I like that. I think that actually is a barrier to entry that's good for the incumbents. And I think that having regulations is great because it protects the industry and it prevents entrance. With the with the cash advance, there are so many players coming in. Anybody can do it. And I think it's the same with the 0% credit cards. But that's why we actually come in and we are building a platform, right? We're sharing information here to differentiate. And we're also offering different products at the same time so that we can solve more complex problems. And 0% is just a gateway to get them in the door before we solve a bigger and more complex problem for them.
Yeah. 100. 0% is like it's the bottom, right? Like it's free money. It's like if you ever played video games, it's like your starter armor in a video game. You can go pretty far with it, like, but eventually you're going to need more complex problems, especially once you get to really large levels. But hey, it's free money. If you don't know how to use the free money, you're not going to know how to use the expensive money, right? And when you're at a certain level of business, you can get high limit. You can get a $250,000 0% credit card, right? You just have to spend that every month. That's the that's the trick. So, what would you say is the latest advancement, right? Like in the financial world, like where do you see it going? I know it's things are going to become more complex for, let's say probably brokers and, guys in our position. For the consumer though, like what do you see? What kind of changes? What are your predictions for the near future?
I I don't know. I don't really predict. I don't think you can predict the market. And my thought process is more akin to what is the market already reacting to, right? What is it already resonating with? What's the market resonating with, and what are they willing to pay money for? Then I'll make an offer around that. But in terms of what I can tell you what I'm seeing now, but I don't really predict anything. What I'm seeing now is a lot of these value add services that you give away for free being necessary to attract the client base you want because of the competition
Yeah,
involved. Or you stack a superior offer, right, behind your original offer to really attract the client base because now you're providing something someone else can't. I think that the best offer will always win.
100%, 100%. It's not the days of, oh, I just found out about, X product. I'm just going to go with them. You're talking with clients that probably shop this, right? Like they've been to multiple brokers. They've been to multiple 0% companies. They're telling you they're trying to beat you up on the price, right? Like, today, just before this call, I spoke with a guy. He spoke with 5 different companies before he worked with us, right? And I was like, you know what, man, whatever. I'll just give you the deal, right? Like at a certain point, like, the business makes sense for you, it makes sense for them. You need it to be a win-win, right? Some clients obviously are just unreasonable. What would you say is what's the minimum to work with you, right? Like where do you what would you say red flags are for a client, right? Where you won't work with them? Because I'm more on the consumer side now with the credit cards. So I seen a lot of them over the last, few years. What do you say? What do you look for, in clients that you're like, I'm not working with you?
Yeah, if they're difficult to work with and like on the first call, if they want to seize control, I typically just let them go. And if they don't, like, if I don't see a pathway to generating at least $10,000 off that client, I just don't think it's worth the attention. Because most of our capital, most of our revenue comes from recurring sales. I believe that if you're not selling 60% of your existing client base over and over again, then your business model is broken fundamentally. Because you should be selling one product and then being able to offer something else behind it and really turning that to cash machine. So I look for clients that I can make $10,000 off minimally on the first year. I also look for someone who's easy to work with. If it's difficult, we'll just drop them because I know there's enough clients out there right now that I can work with that are easier to work with. We don't have a lead problem. We get 1,200 leads a month. We have a conversion problem, and we really want to select a few clients.
How are you trying to solve your conversion problem? Like, I think we both are in the same business of we can get leads all day long, right? We have
Mhm.
we have a list of them, but how do we convert? How do you find the gold in the list? Like, that's the most
Yeah,
important thing in sales.
that's why that's another reason why I opened up my suite of products because you're gonna have clients that qualify for one product but not another. And a lot of the times when they do qualify for another product, but they don't qualify for the products they want, they'll say no, right? They don't want the other product. But with with that lead, even if they don't buy now, 3 months, 4 months down the road, it's a different story. I had a client, he told me he wouldn't take a cash advance for 180,000 7 months ago. We just closed him this week. And fast forward a few months, he came back to us and said, look, I need money. And we set that cash advance up. Originally, he came to us for 0%. We set him with the cash advance. We funded him this week.
If you don't get the 0% right now, you're gonna have to get the cash advance in a couple weeks, man. That's what I tell people, and they don't listen. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. But I think, um, what would you say? Um, what's your favorite product to sell? What do you like to work on the most? Right? What's the most profitable? But what do you like to work? Like if you had to do this for free, what kind of deals would you do just so you could dance?
I would say none of them, but because I like the money more than anything else.
Yeah.
I like, but if I had to pick a product that I know I can do well, and it's simple, it'll be commercial real estate financing because I done at this point I've done multiple commercial real estate deals, and this week we were supposed to close a $2.6 million deal. It's gonna happen next week, but we're gonna collect $130,000 from that one deal. And that's in 30 days. We can do that repeatedly because we don't have a capital problem. We have like we can finance a lot of those transactions. But that those deals are easy. They don't require taxes. They're quick, and we're gonna close another one this month, very likely, and collect 38,000 on that deal specifically.
That's amazing. I mean, a lot of how do you so you got into the world through cash advance, right? Like that was kind of the entry. How'd you get into commercial real estate? Like how'd you figure out how to do a CRE deal?
Yeah. So with finance, there's no moat. But I think it's important to keep in mind that focus is prevalent in everything you do, and it needs to be prevalent in everything you do. You cannot just do a bunch of different products. So I never go into a product without knowing what to do or without having an expert next to me. When I first got into commercial real estate, my accounting executive from a different mortgage company, I brought her along in a lot of my deals. She taught me the drills. She taught me the runaway. And the first deal I did with her was for 775,000, paying 4 points. So in the ballpark of $21,000. And that was a lot of money at the time because at that time I was cold calling from a basement trying to set up my firm. But you don't want to do a bunch of different products right away. You want to get good at one, and then when you want to do another one, bring an expert. I always stand on the shoulder of giants. It's a recurring theme in everything I do. I have mentors who manage billions of dollars in funds. I have mentors who already run massive shops, and they all say the same thing: stay focused. Focus is the difference maker. You don't want to do a bunch of shit. You want to get good at one thing at a time. And if you want to do something else, you gotta draw a fine line between where you're allocating your resource and attention on. With the mortgage deals, I didn't put any attention on. I just brought in an expert and she did all of it. And then I realized how to do it, and then we did it repeatedly. And I said, hey, okay, I'm going to make this part of the core business.
I love that. Like net like I think we both understand. Work with an expert, right? A small piece of a pie is better than 100% of zero, right? Like
Mhm.
so many people, I think, I don't know if it's ego, I don't know if it's, they just, are greedy, but they don't want to share a deal, right? I'm sure you see this in the financial space of where you see a good business opportunity with someone that has a certain piece of something and you can do business together, right? We both share business, right? Like we don't have an issue splitting up, the pie. And I speak with so many people, especially in something like consumer facing, like credit cards. Like I'm like, hey, you have some bankers, I have some bankers, like let's exchange. And they want to charge you like 500 every time to go to one bank, right? And I'm just like, dude, like you made $10,000 last month and you want to charge me $500 to go to this bank every time? Like look at the big picture here. I could teach you how to like do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, but a lot of people are short-sighted in the financial world. And I think that holds a lot of people back. Like, I mean, I like you because you see the big picture. Like, you're not focused on the little money. You want to get the big money. Like, we would like to work with clients who want the big money. There's a ton of people in the financial space that, do what we want. They'll do this for $1,000, $2,000, and they'll try and do the volume. They, don't have the overhead. They don't invest in themselves. Long story short, a lot of people don't invest in themselves. What would you say the latest investment was in yourself that you did? Like, what was the best investment in yourself that you've done recently? Like, what would you want to share with that?
I buy a lot of things, but I can tell you the latest and I can tell you the best one. The best one I think was, well, the latest one was in Dan Brazilian Sigma. If
Really?
you
You
if
bought
you
it?
yeah, he
Yeah.
teaches you how to get girls, and that group is great. If you want chicks and you want to see how it's done
Get some
properly, join
girls,
that.
get some girls with the
Join, yeah,
10 B plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Brazilian knows what he's talking about, and he's a machine. With the best investment, I would say it's gonna have to be with Cardinal Ventures. Right, I paid them 40,000 for their 360, and then the platform was 190,000. And I think that even though those are six-figure investments, I think that they will yield seven, eight, nine, 10 figures for me.
Dude, Grant Cardone is the OG. Like I
Yeah,
remember my first job in high school. Like I wasn't making that bread like you, man. Like you're ahead of the game. But after high school, man, my first job was selling cars. And I was watching that Grant Cardone fucking car sales trading, man. Grant's been in the game for a while. What's that? Walk me through that. Like, how is that investment going for you?
so Cardinal Ventures is it's a spin-off from the original Grant Cardone sales training, but the original Grant Cardone sales training I also purchased, and it was the first thing I purchased when I started my cold calling operations in the
Let's
fucking
go.
basement. And and I was there, and I was like, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. I'm just watching VT Lightspeed because that's the platform he hosts his videos on, and I was paying 497 a month for myself and my partner Mohammed, and we were just watching those, we were just hearing those videos, and it was late night again. I was in the basement. This is in New York City, so basements there are complete garbage. It smells like shit. It's
Yeah,
fucking cold.
it's
It's
not
cold.
good.
It's
That's the
cold.
best place to watch Grant Cardone sales trading. There's
Yeah.
no other place in the world where you'll be more focused.
Yeah, and then our basement was essentially like 6 feet. So if I stand up, it's like right there. And bathroom, so many flies, ridiculous volume of flies,
Oh.
and I think that those videos were life changing for me, right? Because the limiting beliefs I had coming out of high school, coming out of a normal society as a normal person, the amount of baggage everyone carries is fucking ridiculous. Grant Cardone's training shattered all of that. And a lot of people hate on him, but he made me a lot of money. Well, at least to the point where I no longer need to work in the basement. So that's my experience with Cardone's training.
I fuck with Grant Cardone, man. A lot of people do hate on Grant, but he's the
Yeah,
OG. He's the OG, man. Like if you were in sales like from a while ago, like that was the boss. Before all these guys, all these gurus came on the scene, man. It was fucking GC. Grant
yeah,
Cardone, man. I
yeah.
remember I had it bootlegged. I had a login. My
Mhm.
ex-girlfriend's brother bought the training and he gave me his login to Grant Cardone's training. And I was watching that and I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, man, but he's turned into a meme, but like I think a lot of people a lot of my clients they work with Grant Cardone. I'm like, all right, I see how he is. I haven't, purchased anything from him, but I might in the future. He's like the blueprint for I think a
Yeah.
lot of people that came, they followed that path. Who'd you say who'd you say is your biggest influence right now? Like who if you can share their name, like who's your mentor? Like what what's guiding you right now in this business? Who do you want to be like, if anyone?
So there's a lot of names that I know that would rather be kept secret. When you in the institutional world, the people with money, a lot of them rather they do not want to be in the spotlight, and I have no idea why. Because to me, being in the spotlight means more business. I can share the names of people I interact with the most, or I can share the names of the people who I look up to the most.
Who do you look up to the most? Like who would you say? Like if anyone?
Elon Musk.
Elon, man. How come? Why?
Look at what he's done. He came from Zip2 to SpaceX now. I think that the iterations of success he has, there's no one that can compare to him. And the amount of risk he took for each of them also, right? The tolerance, the risk tolerance.
You look up to that. You like risk
Yeah,
tolerance. You like guys that take
yeah.
it. You gonna be the type of guy that's gambling up
Well,
until forever? You're always gonna put it all on the line.
yeah. I mean, I think you kind of have to, right, to feel alive and to get to the next level. I'm
A
not going to
lot
say
of people
stupid
can't
risk.
understand that. A lot of people
Yeah,
that can't understand that. But I think when you've been broke in a basement in New York watching Grant Cardone videos and you come up from that, like there's you feel bulletproof, right? Like you can't lose. You know, worst case scenario, you can get back on the sales floor and make 40K a month.
exactly.
Like,
And yeah, I think a
no,
lot of people once they get a certain amount of money, they get used to it. They get comfortable, right? They get a nice penthouse, they get a nice car, and they're okay with that. I haven't bought any cars since the money I made. I invested completely in myself. Worst case scenario, if I go bankrupt, I'll just file Chapter 7 and wash away my debt, and I'll start everything over again. But I'm
credit
happy to
repair.
start over.
We'll do some credit repair. It's no problem.
Yeah, do some credit repair, make $1,000, pay for like a $500 room per month, and you're good to go. You don't need much. You can make hundreds of thousands with a phone. That's it, right? Because I'm selling.
People think they need a dialer. People think they need a $300 dialer, a MacBook. Nah, man.
Yeah.
I have the same phone number. I've been dialing leads for cars, apartments, 3D printers, funding off this
Mhm.
phone. Same
Yeah.
number, you know?
Yeah. And to answer the other question, I think that the people the ones my mentor that I'm learning the most from right now is going to be Alex Hastry and Louis Garros, and they ran Savvy Capital. And the reason why I say that is because they placed me with fund managers that are managing billions of dollars, and I've never seen this type of capital before. I already work with institutional banks that have billions of dollars without access to provide to my clients, but watch and speak to one person who really takes control of that amount of cash, that was new to me. And because they introduced me to all these people, and they basically pitched these people, and I pitched these people, even though I have nothing alike to these people, it made me realize that it doesn't matter where you are in life. It does not matter if they are here and you are here, as long as you can solve their problems. If you can solve their problems, they will talk to you. No one cares where you are right now. They care about what you can do for them.
100%. 100%. Like, I think in our industry, we're honestly young, right? Like, I'm a little older, but you're definitely young. You're the young G. You're the young gun in the corner. But, we talk to people twice our age, triple our age sometimes, and they have problems that we can fix, right? They don't know how to fix it. We can. How was that? What was the first deal that you did that like surprised you? That you're like, man, this guy, he wasn't like, oh, this is a young guy, like, he doesn't know nothing. Like, what was that first kind of breakthrough moment where you're like, all right, I can do this. Like,
Yeah, good question. I had a client, and this was the deal that paid the bills. Yeah, and this was this client no longer likes me, but that's besides the point. When I first when I first did this deal, it took me 3 weeks. The CFO still likes me. The CEO doesn't like me. That's okay. I was
I'm
quoting
gonna ask
CFO.
why after. I'm gonna ask why after.
Yeah, the CFO. They were they were looking for a payroll funds, right? I had $295,000. I done this deal with TBT Capital. If you don't work with them, you should. Great firm, a lot of money, private credit, great people. TBT Capital basically gave me 119,000, 114,000, no, 104,000. That was the exact amount when we closed the deal. They offered 295. I only wanted 100,000. So I kept that 104 and they net 100,000 after origination. And it took me 3 weeks. And at that time, I did not know how to sell. It was early stage of selling. I was still learning. And when we closed that deal, I made 10,400, 10 points on that deal. Paid the rent.
Paid for Cardone trading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, so why don't they like you anymore? That's the real question now.
Yeah, at the time I was still during the process. I made the CEO. He was at a wedding, right? I remember this vividly. He was a wedding. I was like, and I was repeatedly asking him to get on the phone with the lender because I needed him to close the deal, and he didn't like the process of which we exchanged. And I was still new at that time. I didn't understand how to reframe the conversation and really reestablish myself. So I can take responsibility in that. But that was why I made him get on the phone repeatedly with the lender. But if I were to look back and redo it over again, I'm certain that that conversation would have left off in a position where our relationship was still intact. Because that's such a small thing, right? That means that's like, who gives a shit? You got on the phone 4 times more than you expected. So what? That that was the reason why I couldn't reframe it is because limiting beliefs. I really believe at that time that that's something that I'd done poorly. But who really gives a shit if you got on the phone more than 4 times? It means nothing.
Yeah, man. Like, it's those things that you see, but now you know, and you
Yeah,
don't make that mistake again. Like,
yeah.
the only reason we're where we're at is because we made more mistakes than a lot of people, right?
I agree. I agree.
Like the only reason we're successful is because we made more mistakes than, you know, than everyone, right? Me personally, I'll speak for myself, right? Like the only reason I'm here is because I fucked up, right? Like I made a mistake, lost all my money, had to live off credit cards. Okay, that's why I'm selling credit cards now. That's why I want to have the best credit card program in the world, is because there was a time where I turned 50K into zero in one weekend and had to live off credit cards. So I know from experience how to go from $40,000 in credit card debt back to black, right? Like that's the most important thing. So, but when you run a business, like I mean, you probably see this all the time, like ego getting in the way. Ego is very good, right? Ego makes you reach your goal, but at a certain point, I know, especially in your world, you've seen it kill people, right? Like, how do you? I think we're both a little arrogant, right? With kind of where we see ourselves, where we want to be. You have to be successful, but how do you keep yourself in check, right? Like, how do you stay grounded enough to be able to lead a team, have people listen to you, have have success without blowing up, without flying too close to the sun?
Yeah, this is great books. This is a great book on this, and it's "Ego is the Enemy" by Ryan Holidays. That will teach you a lot more than what I can enunciate. But for me, I think that I've always been humble when there's someone else, there's another character in the room who has done a lot more than I have. I've always been willing to listen. I never really put my ego next to theirs and clash with them. I always bend my knee when I need to. I have no problem bending my knee. And I think that you're right with the ego being such a magnificent tool, right? Because it drives you.
Right.
But when it comes to learning, when it comes to people who has accomplished more than I have no problem putting away my ego to the side. And I think that if you want to handle that, just read Ryan Holiday's book.
Yeah, man. Like I completely agree. Like bend the knee. So many guys, they want to be the big G. Everyone wants to be like, big G. Oh, yo, I'm the best. I'm the best. But like in reality, being humble will get you way further. Like being a servant will get you closer to the king than trying to come for the crown immediately, right? Like something like that. I see in this business so many people have an ego, right? Especially in the financial world. Specifically, actually, MCA. I've talked with some MCA sales guys. I've had to help. I had a couple MCA guys reach out to me for some credit help, right? They're like, I need credit repair. Like, yo, come on, man. And the ego is crazy, right? Even in the credit world, you know, but I always say, like, I'm a student, right? First and foremost, like, I learn, right? To be a good learner, you have to be okay making mistakes. And people appreciate that. Like, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of deals go wrong, and shit getting fucked up, like just straight up. And when you approach it like transparently with no ego, like you actually learn, it doesn't happen again. Like with, especially in the finance world, when a lot of, processes are, you apply it and you see what happened. There's no pre-qualify for certain things. You gotta dance. And if you dance, you dance. If you don't, you don't. Like, what would you say, what's one of the biggest lessons that you've had? Like, what would you say if you could teach someone something, if you could teach yourself something like a year ago, what would you say?
I would say that the focus, right? Target selection. I think that chased too many things. At the beginning of our ramp up process, so we double our revenue year after year. But at the beginning of my 2024, I was doing too many variants of activities. You don't want to be an expert at everything. You really don't, because then you're just generalist. You have to understand what is your mountain and then really own it. I think Sam Oven talks about this. Anyone who hasn't bought his accelerator or his course, I should always suggest doing so effectively immediately. And Sam talks about really just owning your mountain and just staying focused, right? I was trying to do credit card processing to add value to my clients, but really my clients come to me for financing, not for processing. There's no point in me spending 2 months setting all of that up and making a large amount of connections in that space. The bandwidth that it took up could have translated to building more systems to generate more leads and then fixing the process of converting that lead. So that's 2 months wasted. Another example of this is me chasing 0% credit cards. I think that it would have been better for me to really just allocate all the 0% credit cards to you because year to date, even though we've done more 0% credit card deals than anything else, it paid us way less than the commercial real estate, the consulting, packaging, and the cash advance that we did. And really, it's just numbers. If you take a step back, look at it at numbers. The services we provide that provide the most money for Loancater as a whole is cash advance, commercial real estate, asset-backed lending, and consulting.
Do what gets you paid, man. Don't get in your own way. Like,
Exactly.
like it's simple, right? Like it's simple, but when you're in the moment, like we tried other, I tried to have a low ticket credit repair offer. You've dealt with credit repair clients. There's a reason that you got bad credit, man. Like there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like it's because it's a problem. But I completely agree. Give me 1 minute. I gotta go take a piss. I gotta take a break, but I'll be right back. All right? Hold on.
Okay.
All right. We're back. All right. So back to the topic. Low ticket, high ticket. What do you prefer? Low ticket, high ticket?
I made a mistake of working with clients in a month and closing deals for them, and I'll never do that again. And now the reason why I say this is because at that time we had a bigger sales team, but we were making less money. I was wondering what the fuck is going on. And that's because we were serving a bunch of 0% interest credit card clients, right? Making $2,000, $3,000 on a credit card deal plus maybe 4,000 in a few week intervals. It's not a lot. I'd much rather serve three, four clients paying 50,000 at once per month. And we closed 40 different clients, and it was a combination of credit repair and 0% credit card that made up the majority of those 40 new clients. And I just realized, fuck me, this cost so much time, but it made such a insignificant return. The alpha on this is insignificant. So I shift away from that. And don't get me wrong, those clients, like those products are great gateways for you to get the deal in and then mature as the lead matures, as the client relationship matures, you upsell them to different commercial real estate deals, to different credit card deals, and different types of financing instrument.
Yeah.
But I should have allocate the first point of sale attention to that first point of sale to specifically push credit repair and 0% credit cards.
Credit repair, I mean, you know the problems with credit repair. You're dealing with people that are bad at finance. Like if you have bad credit, I mean, a lot of people say, don't judge me by my credit score. I mean, in rare cases, in 0.1%, I would say yes, that is correct. But in most situations, you could judge someone by their credit score. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. Did you have bad credits at some point in your life?
Me? I mean, when I was broke living off credit cards, like my credit score dipped to the 600s because
Uh-huh.
I had to utilize personal credit, but I never had like a missed payment. I don't know how. Luckily, I never had a missed payment or like delinquent or anything else. What about you? Have you?
Never missed payments. And the only problem I have is my current penthouse in Tempe. They don't the auto payments with them keeps fucking failing, and then they tell me, Ryan, if you didn't make a payment, I'm like, what the motherfucker? I have auto payment set up with you guys. Now you're gonna make me go to Chase Bank and get a check to pay you.
It's
Yeah,
horrible. And that's the thing. Like sometimes a late payment will fuck up someone's life.
yeah.
Like, straight up, you like I have clients wealthy, making good money, and for some reason they switch banks, whatever, late payment. And now I'm like, well, now we're just hanging out on these calls. Like now we're just chatting.
Yeah.
like, we're delaying the whole process. It's funny. I mean,
Mhm.
you'd be surprised the things with credit repair that you can remove. I mean, I know you did credit repair for a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's where you want to be. I don't even want to be in credit repair. I offer it for free to clients. But you got to pay for the big ticket. You know, if you're only looking for credit repair, I send you somewhere else.
That's what I was talking about earlier on.
Yeah.
Leaning into complexity, right? You're offering that value add services. Most 0% credit card companies, you either fit them or you don't. But if you show that you're easy to work with, you're willing to pay upfront, we'll take care of your credit for you, and then we'll
Right.
push you down the funnel. We still,
Exactly.
yeah, we still offer that. We just don't. I just don't push that, right? If the lead comes our way and like, Ryan, can you help me with credit repair? I'm like, okay, we'll throw you an hour. But that's not something we advertise openly. Like we don't push that product at all. We already set up the back end infrastructure for it, but we do not push that at all.
Credit repair is it's tough, man.
Yeah,
I don't like credit repair.
yeah. Think about the type of clients you're serving also. If you're 550 credit and you are looking to get 0% credit card, you make no money. That's not a good lead. That's not a good client. I would not want to work with someone like that. I'd much rather deal with a fund manager managing $2 billion who are looking to raise LP capital.
Same amount of time to teach someone how to remove a late payment as it is to convince a fund manager to work with you.
Yeah, same amount of time.
Thing. It's one phone call, right? Like
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I view 0% credit cards as like I want to sell to the masses to eat with the classes. I'm sure you've heard that quote before, right? I've used 0% credit cards as my Coca-Cola. I can put that in a bottle, right? And then I can sell it to the world because it's the best financial product. I mean, what do you know as a better financial product for more people than a 0% credit card to start a business?
There's nothing.
Nothing. Like it truly is the cheapest money that you get paid to use a 0% credit card. So for me, it's like, hey, if you can run your business off a credit card, because I learned, right? I have a credit card. If I can make money off a credit card, I don't have to go work for anyone else, right? Like if you can make money off of a credit card, you just you don't have to listen to anyone. Like you can straight up do whatever you want for the rest of your life if you know how to turn a $10,000 limit business 0% credit card into $20,000 of cash into your account. There's a little more complexity, obviously, but the long story short is so many people are stuck working jobs and they don't need to, right? A lot of people, they don't want to take the risk. I mean, I'm sure, when you started off your business, a lot of people are like, what is Ryan doing, man? Like this guy's crazy. He's watching Grant Cardone in the basement. He's trying to sell this. Like, when was it that people around you like recognized, like, okay, you actually got this? Was it in the beginning where people always like, all right, and how did you react to that? Like, did it motivate you? Like, how was that?
I personally just never cared. I don't really care about what people think, and I think that that served me well. I don't care, man. No one likes me. I can walk down the street and everyone hate me. It wouldn't make a difference to me. I only need a few people in this world to like me, right? That moves the needle in my life.
The banks.
The banks, the bankers, the fund managers, my clients, and everyone else can just be cannon fodder. Doesn't matter to me. To me, in the beginning, my father told me to go back to school. I I didn't listen. For 6 months, I was cold calling at PMF, and I didn't make much money, right? Because after the splits, I was walking away with maybe 3K on a good month. On my best month, a little over 10. But you realize really quickly that your opinions don't matter as long as you have conviction in your abilities, then that's what matters, right? Obviously, you don't want to be stupid. If something doesn't work, if something's a loser, you have to let it go quickly. But
What gave you
I,
that conviction? Where did you get your conviction from? Where'd
yeah,
you get those balls? Like, how do you do it? Like, were you born with it? Did you like, realize something? Because a lot of people, they're special. They just don't realize it, right? Like they're stuck working jobs. They know there's a better path, but they just, for some reason, never see.
I think I think that a lot of it comes down to the people you watch frequently, right? Like if you're watching Elon Musk, that's really different than watching a porn star every day. And their character will seep off on you. The books you read versus the movie you watch. If you're watching Friends and versus if you're reading a book by Benjamin Graham or Warren Buffett, it's I mean, the difference is pretty clear. If you watch Friends, you're probably gonna be a vegetable by the time you're done with the season because you're just a soft pudding of emotions. And
I've
if
never
you read,
watched I've never watched a single episode of Friends. I know it's popular. I just don't know what it's about.
I keep seeing them on Instagram clips, and I zombie scroll
Yeah.
sometimes.
So you still
But
scroll reels. You just
I
like
scroll reels to get a
you
feel of the
scroll reels.
market. I think it's important to do that. You
I
want to look at what
tell
people's
myself
looking at.
too. I tell myself that too.
Yeah. And I will probably spend 30 minutes every 2 days to just look at what everyone's looking at to
Mhm.
get in touch with the market because you're still, no matter what you do, you're competing for attention against those clips.
100%. What do you think? What? gains you attention in the market? Like, how do you get attention really fast? What's your
But
trick?
use when you wanna market like those trashy gossip magazines, like Trump, like what did Joe Biden say to fucking Hillary Clinton, and use the same mannerisms they use, extreme exaggeration of the fact, because people click on those things. You ever watch one of those lose fat in 12 minutes by using this secret trick
Of course, yeah, that's a
clips?
classic.
Those clips are that's what you want to use. You really want to exaggerate things and really be clickbaity, right? But of course, when it's click on it, it has to relate, so you don't piss them off. I think that's the best way to get attention. And then after that, just give away free value, real value, and be entertaining.
That's kind of the secret to all of this is just be entertaining,
Yeah,
right? Like a lot of clients probably, they could work with a number of people in the financial world. They choose to work with us probably because we're entertaining.
yeah.
Like end of the day, like a lot of, you know, and that's the thing. It's attention. Today's world, I think we see it. It doesn't matter if you're the best. It doesn't matter if you have the most features. It doesn't matter if you're the lowest price. Doesn't matter. Do you have their attention right now? And I think with markets and everything in general, all attention based. I mean, you see meme coins, just monetization of attention, right? But end of the day, once you have their attention, you need to keep it. You can't be, you know, I'm sure you train your team that you have to be educated on the phone. You can't just promise the world. You have to you have to be real. What would you say? Let me see. What would you say everyone gets wrong right now as far as marketing? Like, what do you see in the market right now that, I mean, you shouldn't reveal your enemy's mistakes to them, right? But, only a select few, if they're watching this deep an hour into this podcast, like they'll actually watch it all. But what would you say a lot of your market does wrong that they shouldn't, like, they should fix?
Well, I think that no matter how fancy your marketing is, no matter how built your reputation is, the best offer is going to win. I think that before you even worry about copywriting and etc., you need to just send out the offer really quickly to test if it works before legalities, before any of that. Like even though I'm offering capital raising services, right? Before I have a broker dealer to run into, where I'm running into my buddy to close a transaction, I'm going to market, right? I'm going to test if they want what I have to offer. Before I get good with the copywriting and put all this time into building the landing pages, I need to quickly test if they are interested. Move with speed and speed coupled with the right target selection. The only thing that matters is your offer. Everything else is just smokes. Your reputation does not mean someone's going to do business with you. Just because you are Goldman Sachs doesn't mean I'm going to pay you $500,000 for a retainer every single month to do a $20 million raise. I'm much rather with someone. I much rather work with someone who is going to charge a smaller amount or no amount to do the raise.
A lot of guys don't realize speed. Like that's everything, right? Like whenever I message you, I have a response in a minute, right? Like same with all our clients. Like when they hit us up, we respond. So many people in this business, they're slow, right? And I think speed, just offering that is enough most of the time. But end of the day, you're right. Best offer wins, right? Like so many people, it doesn't matter how many, I have people, they're like, you give them your whole pitch, and they're like, well, they do it for cheaper. And they don't give as good service as you, right? Like for a fact they can't do it as good as you, but they pitch it cheaper. I mean, how do you negotiate around that? Right? When you have a service you're selling for 50,000 and they say they get it up the street for 20,000, how do you close that deal?
Yeah, it depends on whether the product is actually similar or not, whether the offer is similar or not. If the offer is different, just say, listen, I understand a Lamborghini is more expensive than a Toyota. Do you still want the Toyota? And you just frame it like that, and and tell them ask them hypothetical question scenarios. I mean, what can you do with XYZ with our product? And then and you want the scenarios to point out specific things only you can do versus them. You want to create a heaven versus hell scenario in your mind. And you want to point out hypotheticals. Because that's what a salesperson does really. You just ask questions and you listen. You ask questions to reflect hypothetical scenarios that your service can deliver.
So many people think sales is telling people things. It's not.
Yeah, it's
It's
not.
asking questions,
Yeah,
right? Like I don't judge someone by what they tell me. I judge them by the questions they ask, right?
yeah,
That's my goal here. Just ask good questions, right? Like
yeah,
that's it. Like,
yeah.
that will teach you way more. And I'm sure you see this with your mentors. When you ask them good questions, like they light up, right? They're like, oh, all right, he finally gets it, right? Like, oh, okay, this is it. So, how'd you learn how to ask questions? Like, well, this will be our final question.
Yeah.
My last question is, how'd you learn to ask questions?
I think that if you're attentive to the world and you love what you do and you are relatively hardworking, relatively smart, the questions just come out naturally.
That's it. And on that, I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, the world rewards people that are curious. They reward people that are honest, that are hardworking, that want it. And I think, with us, like it's pretty obvious. And when people see this, they make it all the way through this an hour or 10 minutes of some financial gurus just chatting on a Saturday. They might have some more questions. So where can people find out about you? Where should people go to, learn about all this?
I have an Instagram, Ryan.Chen007. You can also check out our website, loancater.com, capitalgrowthpartners.com, not .org, not .com, capitalgrowthpartners.org. And yeah, you can pretty much message me on LinkedIn also. Just search Ryan Chen, and you'll see me up there. But you can reach out to me in the socials, and I'll probably respond.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So, Ryan, such a pleasure to have you. I think a lot of people will be able to take some takeaways from this. And again, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being first on the it's about what you know, but it's more about who you know podcast.
Think that.
All right. Cool, man. That was pretty good. Not too bad. We kept it flowing.
Yeah, we should definitely bring more people to the show. Make it a more like a three-way conversation.
Yeah. I got another guy, David, that I wanna, I'll connect you with. I think, the three of us would have a good conversation. But yeah, man, that was cool. That was fun. That was my first podcast.
Send it to me. I'll post it and I'll link it back to you. Send me your socials as well.
I got you. Yeah. I'll send that. I'll probably cut out the part where I took a piss. But pretty easy.
Yeah.
Man, what do you got for the rest of the day? What are you up to?
Just gonna go back to Jen. I use a war map. I don't know if you know what that is.
War mat?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a sheet that tells me what I need to do.
Oh,
And it gives me a high level of my activities for the day. Deals I need to close, the agendas I need to accomplish, and etc. I can send you a copy if you want.
sure. I'll take a look. What else are you up to today? What else is on the docket?
Been a lot of work, and that's it.
Beautiful. All right, man. Well, dude, it was a pleasure talking. I'm gonna download this. I'll send it over to you, and we'll post it up and see where we go. All right.
Sounds good. Bye.
All right, Ryan. Pleasure. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.